どうせ味がないか塩の味しかしねえとか。
どうぞどうぞ。ハンバーガーの味がする。
いやいや、お肉のソースの味がするわ。
おいしい。
But first, a word from today's sponsor, ridge.com/CHEFPK. Is this you? Are you carrying one of these old, fat wallets? This is all it's good for. Do you really need to carry around all of these random things? Why do you still have a picture of your ex-girlfriend in your wallet just because you have room? Do you really need 3 Funland cards? I don't think so. What about, are you even a member? What are these business cards from, 8 years ago? This is not the bulge you're looking for. If you had thighs like All Might, you wouldn't even be able to get your wallet out. But with a Ridge wallet, you don't have that problem. All the bulges are in the right spots. This will help keep you organized with room for up to 12 cards and a little bit of cash if you really need it. My personal Ridge wallet I've been using for 3 years is the carbon fiber premium material because I just had to be a little bit extra. It has an RFID blocker, so not even All for One can steal your powers. Head over to ridge.com/CHEFPK to get 10% off your order and make sure you keep room for Rindo because, let's be honest, she's gonna find a spot in your Ridge wallet too. First rule of anime is to never underestimate the dude with the glasses. Now, we're going to start off with some water at about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This is to bloom our yeast. In about 200 milliliters worth of warm water, we're going to add in about 6 grams worth of instant yeast. Give this a good forking just so that way everything gets nice and incorporated. And we're just going to set this to the side for about 10 minutes so it gets nice and creamy and everything starts blooming. Now, take your nice and bloomed yeast water. Make sure it's a little stirred up. Sometimes it settles at the bottom, but you want to make sure all of that goes into your mixing bowl. To this, we're adding a total of 400 grams worth of flour. I use 200 grams worth of bread flour and 200 grams worth of all-purpose, but feel free to use one or the other. We're also going to add in about 15 grams worth of sugar, 8 grams worth of sea salt, and then finally about 25 grams worth of butter at room temperature. Now start this off at a very low mix just to make sure everything starts incorporating really nicely, and as it starts to form, you're going to have to periodically scrape down the sides depending on your mixing bowl. Mine likes to creep up just a little bit, but once you have a nice cohesive ball of dough, this should be ready to go. I like to make sure that my dough is at about 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, just so that way the butter is totally incorporated. Give this a nice little knead just to roll it, just to a little nice top piece of dough. And then we're going to place this into an oil or grease lined bowl. Just make sure it has enough room to grow. Now I like using my wok as my lid, but you can use whatever you want. Just make sure that that ball of dough doesn't touch anything that you put over it. Now after about an hour, this thing should double in size and have this nice little thick boy. After it's doubled in size, we're actually going to remove this from the bowl onto a floured surface just so we can start working with it. You don't want to pat this down too hard because we are going to end up rolling this out later. This weighed out to about 644 grams and I wanted about 6 even burger bun sizes. Each one that we're going to do is about 110 grams just so that way it kind of evens out, but don't worry about making them perfect. Now we're going to roll each of these into a ball of dough just to make sure everything is nice and symmetrical. Give this a little bit of a pat down just so that way it's a little more even once we start hitting this with your rolling pin. You want to make sure that you roll each and every ball of dough before you start rolling them out. Now we want to roll these out to about a ½ inch thickness, nothing too thin or too thick because we're also going to let these proof just a little bit longer. I wanted these to be about 4 to 5 inches in diameter and then go ahead and brush these with a little bit of egg wash after you put them on your pan. Sprinkle them with your sesame seed just because, it's a burger bun. You got to have some sesame seeds on there, right? And now find whatever vessel you're using. I'm just using another baking sheet to place over the top of my burger buns and we're going to let these rest for about 45 minutes to an hour. Mine went for about an hour before they kind of proofed a little bit, but these are going to be ready to go and you can ignore the burgers that you just saw. After baking these for about 15 minutes, you should have some nice, beautiful G-bad going on. Once they're nice and G-bad, remove these from your baking sheet and place them onto something to cool down like a wire rack so that way they don't continue to cook on that pan. These are ready to go. Now for the star of the show. The reason why I wanted to make these burgers is because our neighbor goes hunting and provided us with a couple of pounds worth of elk. I know in the anime that they use deer or venison, but I felt like elk was a great substitute and it was free, so I'm going to be using this. Now into your bowl of choice, place your elk into it, but I don't think they actually season this too hard because they may have not had a tremendous amount of spices in the show. I'm just using black pepper for this because the only other thing mentioned was salt in the show, and we'll get to the salty part later. Now I measured each one of these burgers out to about 5 to 5.5 ounces, but feel free to make them as big as you want. I wouldn't recommend anything less than 4 ounces though, otherwise they will just be really, really small. I took whatever scraps I had left over and just added them to each portion of the burger because it's just extra burger. Form these slightly into your patty, but we're gonna end up making smashed burgers, so you don't really have to worry about making these too perfect right now. Now for the other accompaniments, they definitely had tomato on their burgers, so we're just gonna use some nice thick sliced tomato for this. You can use whatever accompaniments you want, but I believe it was just lettuce and tomato, so we're just gonna go with that. I just wanted to make sure I had enough tomato for about 2 slices per burger. Now for the lettuce, we are just using iceberg lettuce for this, but feel free to use whatever lettuce you want, or some cabbage or some slaw. You know, it's totally up to you. You're gonna be eating this thing. Remove the stem from that iceberg and then start peeling back the leaves. Once you get towards the middle of the lettuce, you can kind of crush this with your hands just a little bit, you know, not enough to hurt the lettuce, and that way you can peel off more and you have some lettuce ready to go for your burgers. Okay, so hear me out. Pickled plums, or umeboshi, these are super salty, and they had mentioned that there was a quote-unquote sauce in the anime, and you know what? We're gonna make our own sauce for this. Feel free to use whatever you want, but I'm gonna be using the pickled plums. I'm gonna be using about 3 pickled plums for this, and just make sure you take the seeds out, because that's not any fun. Give this a good choppity with your knifey, and just make sure it's nice and broken down. You can do this in a blender too, but that's a lot of extra work. Now we are going to add in some of our favorite ketchup from... Do we have any in there? Is there any in the bottle? Yeah, we got ketchup. We're gonna add some of our favorite ketchup from Portland Ketchup Co. and just give this a nice stir. This is gonna make it kind of this salty, slightly sweet umami bomb of a sauce. We're gonna take out some of it and add in an equal part of mayonnaise. Yes, you heard me right. We are making fry sauce, and I will never get over the fact that fry sauce is delicious and it is very underutilized in a lot of burger joints. Now I wanna get a couple of my buns ready just because they're ready to go, and I wanna have all my mise en place ready before I start cooking. Look at the texture on this bun. I'm super happy with it. And there's Margaret with Lucian. He's a traitor. I feed you, I love you, and this is the thanks I get. Now back to the burger buns. I have 3 people that I'm cooking for, myself and 2 others, so I want to make sure I have 3 burger buns ready to go. I'm using my cast iron griddle for this, but feel free to just use a regular saute pan. I'm using this because I'm going to be able to cook multiple things at once. Now I like using oil and butter for this, the butter for the flavor and the oil to make everything nice and non-slip. And just go ahead and place all of your buns down, whatever you're working with. Get these nice and toasty, just enough to where they start sealing the bread. This is going to help protect it from the sauces and the juices and give it a nice little toasty flavor to it from all the butter and the oil. Once you have those done, go ahead and wipe everything off, re-grease your grill, and now season your burgers, because remember, we didn't add any salt to these previously. Go ahead and salt these pretty hard and place them down, and grab a spatula just to start pressing this thing down. Yes, I know people are like, why would you do this? Because I like smashed burgers and I like the way they taste. Now after smashing one burger down, add your second one, because we're making one for the waifu and one for the friend, just so that way they can get fed first before we start to make our own. I cook these for about 5 minutes at a medium-high heat, just so that way they get nice and caramelized on the bottom. You'll get to see how beautiful these look. And especially with elk, don't be afraid to use a little bit of extra fat when cooking them, because elk is incredibly lean. Now for the wife and the friend, we're going to be adding some cheese. This is pepper jack in particular. I know in the anime they didn't use cheese, or it didn't look like it, but they wanted some pepper jack, so you know, you got to make the customers happy, right? Now grab the bottom part of your bun and line this with your plum ketchup, then add in a piece of lettuce and then the burger on top of that. That's super important. You want the burger to go on top of the lettuce, just so that way it protects the bread. Put on just a touch more sauce, followed by a little bit of lettuce, and then wait dude, where's the tomato? There you go. Add your tomatoes and make sure you season the tomatoes too. Then top off both of your burgers, and these bad boys are ready to be served. They're pretty massive, but I think they'll be happy with it. Make sure you take these to your guests while they're still warm, and make sure they get fed before you feed yourself. Now for my burger, we're doing a little bit of a double patty. This is about 10 ounces worth of elk, and it's fine. I probably didn't eat very much that day. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I want a double elk burger. Treat this the same, just make sure it's seasoned pretty well, and give this a good smashing down, just so that way this burger does actually cook in a timely manner, because it's gonna be a thick boy. After about 6 minutes of this massive burger cooking, give this a nice little flip, and you can see all of that beautiful caramelization on that burger. Now since this is a lot bigger, I want to go ahead and let this rest for 3 to 4 minutes before I actually plate this up. Now for mine, I'm going to be doing the plum ketchup on the bottom, followed by lettuce once again, followed by the burger right on top of that, and this has been rested for those few minutes that we really needed. Now we're going to use our fry sauce on top of the burger and not ketchup, so this is our special sauce that they had mentioned in the anime. Now follow that up with your tomato, and season your tomato with your wet fingers because you're stupid, and then wash your hands. Then add in a little bit of your lettuce, and then followed by whatever is left of that fry sauce. I probably should have made more. Hit the top bun on top of the lettuce, and this thick boy is super done. This is ready. Because this thing is so thick, I also decided it would be a great idea to wrap this thing. There was a reason why they wrapped these in the anime, and that was because they had honestly made all of these ahead of time, but we won't talk about that. That's a no-no situation. But it also makes it a lot easier to eat, so feel free to wrap this thing up and enjoy. Ooh, I should make banh mi's next. That'd be so good. There it is, guys, the Crescent Burger from Log Horizon. Now, the thing is that I used elk instead of deer or venison because it's what I had on hand and what I got for free. This burger also was a double patty like they had mentioned in the show as well, so this is kind of a big boy. And you also don't have to do fry sauce, but I mean, we live in the Northwest, so. That's really good. That's really good. The elk isn't as gamey as I thought it would be. And then you have some of the saltiness and, oh my God, I have stuff everywhere. You have some of the saltiness and the acidity from that plum ketchup and the creaminess from that fry sauce. The bun, I mean, come on. Come on, guys. I think I need a beer. What's your favorite style of burger? I just love going to In-N-Out, but the wait is always about an hour where I am. My name is CHEFPK. I hope you had some fun today. Get subscribed and remember, keep playing with your food. I'm gonna go get a beer. Rachel, fetch me a beer. I just got the middle finger.